Hello guys, welcome back to the Renegade Dyspraxic. This is Alex coming with you with another video. Today I would like to talk to you about something which you probably haven't heard of before. It's actually a way of doing things which has only really occurred to me in the last couple of years or so. How growing up, when I received lots of help through my occupational therapist and physiotherapist, etc. for my dyspraxia, they were kind of teaching me a way of trying to do things, which was largely based around a particular, style, way of acting or way of thinking, which I'd never really made a connection before until recently. If I'm not making much sense, allow me to explain myself. I'm not sure if any of you have heard, but there's a brilliant book. It's been out on the market now for a few years. It's by a gentleman called Dr. Robert Murray, and this is an old copy of it. It's called the Kaizen Way, or How One Small Step Can Change Your Life. Now, when we often in society, as this book talks about, when we think about getting things done, in particular when we want to accomplish huge, things which will impress others or even ourselves, we'll often go about trying to take massive action steps and, putting lots of pressure on ourselves, perhaps unnecessary amounts of pressure, and really try and force ourselves to just get it done. Now, what the author of this book, Dr. Robert Murray, is basically saying is that really that way of doing things is actually what he refers to as innovation. Whilst that does at times work, it says the trouble is that if you're too innovative or trying to be too innovative and get big tasks done too quickly and big action steps, basically there's a part of your brain called the amygdala, which in many ways is to do with the fight or flight part of our bodily responses. When you get filled with adrenaline or fight, you would enter a state of fight or flight, and oftentimes that would also lead to a feeling of paralysis, where you just remain frozen in fear like a deer in the headlights. And oftentimes when you're in fight or flight or that state of paralysis, you're in the process, subconsciously even, sabotage your efforts. Now, what he's basically saying, sorry to move the phone, what he's saying is that even in day-to-day tasks, when we set ourselves goals which are a bit beyond, what we believe capable of ourselves, in particular when we're trying to be innovative and really push ourselves to accomplish huge things, what will happen in the process is we will actually activate in the back of our heads the amygdala, which will essentially be sort of the alarm system, you could say, flooding our brains full of adrenaline. And in the process, whilst we might not feel, like shocked, like heart-beating adrenaline, like you would if you saw, a lion in the jungle, for example, what it does do is it still, gives us a subtle feeling of adrenaline or stress. And that in itself can cause us to literally sabotage our efforts, because, when the going gets tough, most of us, not just tough, but most of us get going in the end, when we give up in the end, very much. Because, why push yourself to do something which is hard when you can just do something a lot easier? Unfortunately, the hard stuff, be it dieting or whatever, is unfortunately the stuff which, speaking from my own personal experience, is needs to be done. However, in his book, he mentions instead about a different approach, which he calls the Kaizen way. Kaizen, if you're not aware, is a Japanese manufacturing principle. I won't go into the ins and outs of it, because otherwise it'll be probably a more boring video than it may be coming across at the moment. But essentially, in the Kaizen, the idea behind it is you get what you want to get done. For example, suppose you want to be able to run, say, 10 kilometers, and you chunk it down into really small steps. So let's say you can barely run a kilometer, and that's the best you can do. Well, if you wanted to run 10 kilometers, you'd have to train yourself up. And so what you wouldn't do is just force yourself to run as hard as you can every day, because you just ultimately end up injuring yourself in the process. And it would probably be a case of, if you pardon the pun, but 2 steps forwards, 1 step back. And getting to the point where you can run 10 kilometres would be a very long, arduous and painful journey. Instead, how he talks about it, or the Kaizen way, would be, okay, if you want to run 10 kilometres and you can just about run a kilometre, well, for next week, if you can, every day, just run the 1 kilometre until such time as you've gotten used to running 1 kilometre and it comes pretty easy to you. Then once you've reached that stage, set yourself the next small goal of, okay, can you run perhaps 1.5 kilometres? And keep doing that until you can run, every day, keep running 1.5 kilometres until you can comfortably run, 1.5 kilometres without breaking too much of a sweat. And when you feel ready, then move on up to see if you can run 2 kilometres. And you get the picture. You just build up bit by bit over time. And before you know it, you're able to run 10 kilometres. And the beauty of it is because you're using steps which are so, for you, so comfortably small, your what they call amygdala in the part of your brain we're saying, which causes fight or flight, that part wouldn't be awakened. And in other words, the brain's alarm clock wouldn't go off, flooding the brain with fear and giving you lots of self-doubt in yourself, hence causing you to fail in the process. So this can be applied to anything really, not just running, but, weight loss or, getting some work that needs to be done, be it coursework, schoolwork, or even work, homework that you brought home from the office that needs to be done. But the reason why I'm mentioning this specifically with Kaizen in regards to dyspraxia was because when I was growing up, as I was saying, I used to receive lots of help from occupational therapists and physiotherapists and the likes. And in the help that I got, a lot of the stuff I was taught, which I didn't realise at the time, was really being able to do simple tasks, but doing it carefully and consciously to the point where it became almost like an ingrained habit in the end. And then once I was able to do that, I would then go on to do a slightly bit more complicated task. So to give you an example, as a dyspraxic, I would have found it very hard, or I did find it very hard to ride a bicycle. So what they did in the process to help me out was I'll be, given a what was called a tricycle, as most small kids are given, and obviously I was very quick to master riding a tricycle because you don't have to really worry about your balance. But over time, I was, initially one person holding me on the bicycle, and I've moved along, and then I'll be cycle for a few seconds without assistance, and there'll be someone to hold on to me again. So I'll permanently kind of keep my balance whilst riding the bike. And these and other tasks as well I'll be worked with a physiotherapist whilst, this would be after school times and all that. They'll be, giving help with a physiotherapist over various tasks. And it's only really now, looking back, I realised that what they're doing was really a Kaizen approach, although I don't think even they would have called it Kaizen approach. It was just more the idea of if there's something which, as a dyspraxic, we find hard, simply get that particular item or that particular thing you find hard and break it down to many small pieces. So to give you an example, suppose you've got some pretty severe dyspraxia and you find that every 2 out of 3 times that you reach to pick up a glass off the table, you knock the glass over and all your drink goes everywhere, which for an adult can be quite an embarrassing situation, especially if it keeps happening to you over and over. So as a dyspraxic, what you can do in the process is see if you can train yourself to just reach out and perhaps, rather than actually touch the glass, just reach your arm out near the glass and then stop. And then, perhaps try again, reach your arm up near the glass and then stop. Obviously, you can keep doing that and until you got to the point where you're confident you can reach your arm out and stop before knocking the glass over. But obviously, before that time comes, you're probably going to want to have a drink. So what you can do, therefore, is do the process of practice, reaching it up, stop, and then practice, then focus on the next more bit of the task, which is to simply wrap your fingers and your palm around the glass safely or securely. And then once you've done that, for a brief second, take a mental pause and then take the next step, which is then to lift the glass up and gulp or have your drink. So essentially, if you're, run that by again, if you're someone who has severe what's called ideational dyspraxia, where performing very basic tasks is a difficulty to you, what you can do is you can actually break down these very basic tasks still into even smaller steps. So using the example of, for example, having a drink of water, the glass is on the table in front of you. You would simply, put your arm out, but aim not to touch the glass, just put your arm out, then stop. Then next bit afterwards, your next step would be to wrap your fingers and your palm around the glass, so you're holding it, and then take a break for a brief second, and then lift the glass up and drink it. You find that when you break the process down into small steps, your chances of failing, or in this case causing a spillage, reduce drastically compared to if you just were to reach out, grab it, lift the glass up, where, as I was saying before, probably 2 out of 3 times you may knock it down and cause great embarrassment to yourself and other people. Well, to yourself, perhaps other people, if you spill the drink all over them as well. Anyhow, my voice is, you can tell, still going. I've still got a bit of this cold at the moment, so I'm going to probably end the video now. But what I will say is this book is brilliant for, if you want to read it, I recommend getting it from Amazon. I'll leave a link below in the bottom in the description. It's by Dr. Robert Moyer, and it's called One Small Step Can Change Your Life, the Kaizen Way. I would highly recommend reading this book, because I say not only does he talk about taking small actions, but he also talks about another aspect, which I should have mentioned, is if, like myself, I find many dyspraxic individuals, our minds tend to be all over the place. He talks about how, by asking yourself small questions, questions which don't require, like, let's think of an example of a small question now. Like, for example, a small question would be, how can I make an extra £2 tomorrow? Whereas a large question might be, how can I make an extra £1,000 tomorrow? But if you ask yourselves 2 small questions, once again, it goes back to the, we're seeing before, the amygdala part of your brain, the fight or flight part. By asking small questions as well as taking small actions, you're able to tiptoe yourself around the amygdala without waking it up and causing yourself lots of stress in the process. Anyway, my voice is going because I'm still partly overcoming this cold I was mentioned about in the previous video. So, as I was saying, I'll leave a link to the book in the description section below. Remember, guys, those of you who take anything away from this video, and that is, if you come across things which stress you out or tasks which you find stressful, just chunk it down into very small, easy steps, and just do one small step at a time until it's done. Any questions, or you'd like to ask me anything more about this, please feel free to leave a comment, and I'll try and get back to you. And don't forget to subscribe to this video, or like this video and subscribe to the channel. And I look forward to speaking to you in another video. Hope you have a better voice. All the best for now. Bye-bye.